I'm just going to start recording. All right. Good morning, afternoon, or night, depending on what time you are watching this. This is Melanin Mindset, formerly known as the Wellbeing Show, a show where we look at mental health issues within the Black and ethnic minority community. Today, we're going to be looking at health and fitness, and I've got two guests with me today. So, guests, if you'd like to introduce yourself, let's start with Jacob.
Hi, my name is Jacob Francis. I'm a football coach, and I coach adults and young people and children.
Okay. Dom?
Yeah, hi, my name is Dominic. Also a sports scientist and an injury and performance rehabilitation coach as well. And I also work with adults and children.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so first I will start off by saying, how have you guys coped in the past, you might as well call it a year now, with the whole, obviously coronavirus, lockdown, out of lockdown, in lockdown, whatever. Like, how have you mentally coped, and what have been the things that you've been doing to keep yourselves afloat?
Jay, you want to go first?
I think for me, in general, when I say general life, I mean like the sort of standard of life we had before COVID. The outlet for me was always the coaching, aside from sort of my family life and my work experience. So it was quite a challenge. My coaching is a big outlet of mine. But one thing I have been able to do during this period of time is become more sort of educated. And that's in relation to coaching and my own personal interests and hobbies. Like to read a lot as it is, but been doing loads of that, reading the few books that I have that I've actually never got around to reading stuff online, doing a few online courses, and helping friends and family and sort of networking in relation to other topics. So that's actually really lifted me. Little things like this, helping sort of discuss matters that are important with people. It's been a real outlet and avenue to sort of realign my focus and sort of keep me sane in some context, because work, family, and my hobby have all been impacted significantly in the last 12 months. So reading and sort of re-educating myself on certain topics, I guess, has been the main thing for me. Yeah.
And for me, it's sort of like being a blessing in disguise, really. The type of person I am, what motivates and influences me, I'm always like, in a way, finding myself self-motivated in ways. So it hasn't really affected me much. Just like Jacob also said, it made me want to go out there and learn, and also it opened up a whole avenue where I had opportunity to work with semi-professional footballers and professional footballers as well, looking to get back into their fitness, and also coming from injury, working with them. And it gave me some clarity and a whole focus into what I really, really want to actually get into now and do for myself in terms of my brand and business. So working with kids, mentoring kids on the side, it's been something that I think being able to pour into others has become like an opportunity to do that. So overall, I think it has been a good thing. And so all I can say is that at least I kind of take it one day at a time, really.
Cool. So you mentioned mentoring young people, and Jacob, I know you do a similar thing. How much of coaching is mentoring? How much of it is going into the mindset of the youth, as opposed to obviously the physical side of things as well?
Well, to start, I guess it's quite personal on the coach. Obviously, me and Dom knowing each other from our own separate roles and our friendship, but it
Breaking up a bit there.
tailored to the role that you're dedicated or set to work with a specific individual. But at the same time, for me, when I'm team format or my group format, I'm quite a person. I like to build individual relationships. I like to invest in the individual, and I like to sort of go the extra mile, even if that's not necessarily expected. So as a coach, obviously, I have a team. I have a group of players that I work with, but my approach is very much individual. Of course, there's aspects of it. There's a team approach, but to see a definitive improvement, I like to get to know the person, the player, the mental state that they're in. So, from a football aspect, there's a four-corner model, and it covers various different angles of the player. And the obvious ones are the physical one, the technical / tactical side of the player. But the ones I like to tap into as well is the psychological and the social corner, because that's the person. And there is no player, there is no sportsman without the person that is in that mold. The mental aspect is significant. So the mentoring, you can't be a top coach, you can't be a top sort of one-to-one position or any aspect if you cannot mentor, and you have to be able to lift their mood and tap into what motivates them, what gets the best athlete out of them. So you have to be a mentor basically to be efficient. That's my understanding and belief.
You mentioned changing their mood, getting the best out of them. It brings me back to, I was reading an interview with Fernando Torres when he left Liverpool and went to Chelsea, and he said one of the things that was difficult for him was the difference in just getting to training in London, and by the time he got to training, he wasn't really in the mood. He wasn't in the right mindset because he'd just been frustrated just trying to get to training, whether it's traffic or however he got there. So little things like that. I mean, are those things that you will see? I mean, it's the things that we see in sport. A lot of times we wonder why this particular player, in whatever sport there is, they may have been very successful and then they've gone to another team and all of a sudden they haven't replicated that same level of success. Do you think that is, a thing, or do you think it's just maybe they're physically declining?
I'll let Dom answer that, I guess.
Yeah, so with Fernando Torres, I watched this interview, and I know at the time as well, as a footballer, there's always aside, like Jacob mentioned, everything, that the tactical side and the social and psychological side. The psychological aspect, it plays a big role in the life of an athlete, I'll say. And aside that as well, if he's somebody that was always looking into the tabloids or looking on social media, it's even sort of like influences his performance. So with him, it was mainly him, how he, in a way, as a player, because every player normally has a ritual to do, whether they self-talk to themselves, or do you understand? It was up to him to reach out to a pinnacle of himself where he had to motivate himself in a way, whether even if he was going to training, if he had to play a song that would get him calm, he didn't do any of that, I think. And I don't know whether the move from Liverpool to Chelsea was something that he was really into. At the end of the day, it's so much that is around it, but we don't know that the background works that had gone behind that before the move. So we can ask the question, was he into it? Was it a good move? Did his agent, it's so many things. So with him, he had to, basically, now that you are there, it's your job, it's your career to play ball. And now you are at Chelsea. It's your job to be at training. Your manager has an expectation of you and a certain standard for you to uphold. So once he gets there, I think he had to, in a way, forget about all the other distractions, the factors like the traffic not making you get to training early, the traffic, all of that stuff. Forget about it. Now you're there, you've shown up, you do what you are good at. And I think he let it get to him for too long that it started affecting him in his mind. And when something starts from your mind, then of course it transcends to your physical. So therefore his performance started depreciating, and he wasn't that name that was being called out seasons before. So I think that even affected him. And being at a big club like Chelsea, how you get sometimes really, really harsh fan base and unscrupulous fans. He also let that get to him. I am the same guy that used to score so many goals for Liverpool, and now I'm here and I'm struggling to even get 5 goals in 5 matches or something like that. So he let that get to him in such way. But I think what he could have done better was, or I don't know if he had, because I know with every sports setting there is always the manager. And like, let's say with Tony Pulis, he's the only manager I know aside his FA coaching badges. He has a sports psychology degree, and normally clubs will obviously hire, or they will sort of like what's it called, employ a sports psychologist. But he was the only guy, so therefore he coaches and he talks to his own players at the same time, because he said it's the way that he can get to know them better. I don't know whether he made good use of the psychologist at Chelsea at that time, or whether the manager at that time also saw that this is a top striker from somewhere that I want to build him to make him lead the squad. But this is where he's failing. What can I do to help him? So it has to also come from communication skills as well. Was there a language barrier playing in Liverpool? Obviously, I'm guessing not, because they speak English there. So coming to London, to Chelsea, there's so many things. The communication aspect of it. Did he make his weaknesses known? Was he an introvert when he came to Chelsea? Was he an extrovert? Like, it's so much. And I think watching the news and seeing his name on the tabloids and fans bashing him all the time, if it did affect him. I think only when he had to win that Champions League for Chelsea at that time was at that moment that I really saw Fernando Torres in an element where he was that guy when he was playing for Liverpool. So with such players, their mental health, their mindset is a lot. Do you understand? So what you're thinking, if it's something that is sort of like cramping your style and keeping you in a corner, a tight corner, it makes you not perform well. And now you have to deal with your I'll say your competitors, which are like the other strikers. You have to now deal with social media. You have to now deal with like sports pundits. You have to now deal with manager making decisions, and it's not going to your favor. So with him, I believe whatever it was, I was really disappointed as well, because he was someone that I thought this guy is going to be really good. But at the end of the day, in the life of an athlete, anything can happen. Circumstances changes, and if you're not careful, it does sort of like take a toll on our performance overall. So yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned like social media and things like that, which brings me on to my next point. A lot of players of color are receiving a lot of racial attacks. This isn't something that's necessarily new in football. We know that, we've heard about monkey chants and things like that. But with the introduction of social media now, it's more, it's more personal, I guess. It's more directed at a particular player. I'm not sure the player's name, but one of the Man United defenders has been.
Oh, Axel Tuanzebe.
Right, yeah. So he's been receiving some of late, and we know the stories of people like Sterling and Rashford and things like that. So, what do you think personally, if you was in a hierarchy position in the FA or something, what do you think can be done to help support these players and to help obviously kick out racism?
Well, Jacob, you want to go first, or should I?
I'll make a start. I got quite a brief stance on that. You said, if I was in a high position at the FA, that's a question in itself, because there's an argument. What are the FA? What are the PFA? Even what are kick it out? What are they doing to support our football players? That's a question in itself. But I guess, what you're getting at is if I was in that position where I could do make some changes, I would be applying a whole heap of pressure to the social media platform. It's really interesting that in the last few days, the social media platforms have come out to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Some of the changes look really productive and good. My question is how in the space of a few days have they made those changes when these changes have been asked for years? And what the reality is, in the last 12 months, we've seen a real highlight in institutional racism and a highlight of racism across the world, not just this country. And ultimately, I think that large proportions of our communities are standing up and saying this isn't okay, and we're going to make a strong stance. And human power is more powerful than anything. It's not necessarily saying we're going to boycott this. It's not going to say, oh, we're going to do that. is literally saying that this isn't okay, and then backing it up with what you're saying. So, you know, in very basic terms, you know, we've stood up and we've you know, participated in marches. When I say we, I mean our communities. You know, we've participated in marches and we've facilitated them. That's really important to understand. It's not like all those marches have been asked for and arranged by other organizations. Some have, some haven't. We've made very strong appeals. You know, we've remained as a close-knit community. Some actions have gone above and beyond, but the reality is the attention has been caught. And the strongest thing for me is change in perception. Change in perception is bred into the institutional racism. The reality is Marcus Rashford will always receive abuse because he's a football player, and criticism will always be there. The difference is now the level of abuse he is receiving. Don't get me wrong, there is still some foul abuse he's receiving, but the abuse he is receiving is on a lower level now because he has changed people's perceptions, because the highlight and attention he is receiving in general is the publicity around him is positive, because he is attending and supporting a large community that is not his ethnic community, it's not his background. So what I mean by that is he is reaching and supporting a large population of Asian children, white children. And why I say that is because those communities, who may be the people that have been abusing him on Twitter, on Facebook and other social media platforms, they're now thinking, well, hang on, he's actively done something that supported my child. I'm not I can't abuse him. I can't racially abuse him. So people have had to think twice.
Let me jump in a second there, though, right? I want to play advocate for a second, right? So I see what you're saying, yeah? And I understand what you're saying. But should it be for him to even have to do that to not receive
Of course not.
abuse? You know, I see.
That's a very simple answer. No.
You know, why should he have to be a situation where it's like, oh, look what I've done? Why can't he just, let's say, play?
Let me put it very clear. He or no other individual should have to do good to not receive bad.
Right.
We are all human race. We should never have to give to receive. We should never have to show love to receive love. But in this world we live in, it's not even a case of just giving and receiving. It's you will receive hate even if you do good. Let me refer back to my previous point, is that we're not just talking about, oh, he's not getting racially abused because he's doing good. He's still getting racially abused. I'm just saying it is on a lower level. And what I believe a larger audience or a larger group of aggressors that would have been racist towards him and have been racist towards him in the past has toned down, because his actions in another area have led to those people to think twice. You know, these stereotypes that people have of communities where they then become racially abusive towards them, people say it's born of ignorance and lack of education. Is, you know, there's many forms of it. The reality is, if Marcus Rashford is positively changing those perceptions, should he have to? No, it's on every individual to have an accurate, informed, and appropriate perception of people. But we cannot influence everyone else. We can only do what we're doing. If no one did any good in any community, we would all have some negative stereotypes. I believe that's a strong thought. But those are just, you know, some strong but varied opinions of mine. You know, I'll let Dom put his input, because I'm aware that Dom will have his perspective on the matter. But you know, let's not shy away. Even though Marcus Rashford is doing good, I'm not saying that abuse has stopped for him.
Yeah. So Jacob, thank you for that. Like, if I was to be in a board or higher sort of like talk for FA, these things are there. Like, there's kick it out of football, like that thing, like the initiative that they brought. Sometimes it makes me wonder, like, did they just do it? So we would see it, and we as a community is like we tend to see something, and we're like, oh, it's happening, so let's just relax. And we've done it over time and over time again, and we've realized last year that it hasn't changed. It's not changing anything, and people will consciously be ignorant, be racist, and be doing what they're doing in football. And sometimes I used to want to be like, I'm the type of person I am. When I find out you, the person sort of like, attacking in certain ways, you will never change. Then my reaction will change, because then I don't even deem you worthy enough to even change a mood within me. So when Danny Alves from, I think, was it Barcelona that time he was playing for PSG, when he picked up the banana and he ate it. And I'm thinking, this that he has done it, how is it going to make the abusers think like, oh, are they going to stop? They didn't stop. It's not just him that it's happened to. It's happened to Neymar. It's happened to a lot of African players, a lot of black players, and it will always be there. And they think they can get away with it because they're in a massive crowd. They don't know who threw it. And more time, I'm very sure that they can look in their cameras and actually pinpoint who did it. But they're not going to do it, because if they do it, at the end of the day, it goes against them as a brand, as an organization. Do you understand? So they are also protecting their backs, and they don't want to go out there in a negative light, because it will affect the organization and what they stand for. All they're going to do is just release a statement. And sometimes I ask ourselves, though, are we that very sort of like, I won't say lenient to, or so accepting that just something little we accept and then we move on because we protested and something happened, we don't check on it the next 2-3 weeks to come? Are we are you content with what we're doing as a community? And if we are like that, then it will always make them do something and get away with it, thinking they can. But if we were to constantly get on their necks and on their backs literally every day, like, it will have to force them to actually put measures in place. So I think Jacob must have seen it when the lady on Twitter, like on the news, asking the black guy to ask, why don't black players turn off their social media? That's like, wow. Like, sometimes the way people talk, you can tell exactly like the capacity they have and the range that they have. So yes, black players, black people, we have to protect ourselves in a way, but at the end of the day, this is an organization that benefits from everyone. The fan base benefits when we score a goal. They benefit when we win a game for them. So therefore, what are they actually doing to protect us? Because we are not pawns. We are people that obviously matter so much as well. So if we matter so much to them, why is it so hard for them? Even like the whole kneeling before games, some of them are opposing it. They think it's making the game boring, and it wasn't like this, and then they should muscle up and move on. Like, that their mindset, all they care about is the game. But you're not calling out the person next to you shouting racial abuse, yet you want me to go on. So, for example, Dembaba's reaction against PSG, a lot of people were talking about why he had to walk off and why the game has to be postponed. And I mean, they didn't get postponed. He go play later time, and why he had to be stopped for a while, and so many things. But I'm thinking, have you even tried to think and understand it from this guy's point of view, or even the manager who's black, what he said to him? And yes, they're trying to use the whole language like Negreta means this in this certain country, which I get it, but more time than no, because I have met people who are not English and they're from Portugal, Italy, or wherever, Spain, and that same lingo is what they use, but they know exactly what it means when they talk to them, because the social media, they have seen it from other sides. They know that in America, when they say this N word, and they know, but then they'll say it to hide and use their language to hide behind it, thinking, oh, that's not what I meant. This is what it means in my country or my language. So it has to be a thing that if I was at the top of the board, I would literally do so much as to, if someone so as do something deliberately to, aside the whole throwing of objects on the football pitch to a player, chanting racism, if you can identify them, you hold them to scrutiny, where at the end you set an example with them. It will make others stop. But they're scared because they also think when they do that, it will not make them purchase tickets to watch the games. But therefore, they're losing out. So it's like a whole, it's huge. It's like a big fight. But we shouldn't get comfortable when they bring out like maybe a slogan or like, I don't know, a hashtag. We get content too much. And I don't like that about us as a people. We need to constantly, and like Jacob was mentioning Marcus Rashford. Yes, he's getting positive. It doesn't mean that he has stopped, but at least comparing that to 2 years ago, it's better in a way. It's getting better. He hasn't stopped, but at least people do it and they hide it. And he's always vocal on Twitter as well. So you can tweet something, and I guarantee you go under his comments in his tweet and you suss them out, and they are normally under fake IDs or fake profiles, and it's really hard, But at the same time, though, that's where the mental thing as well coming. Like they need to equip themselves to overlook certain things. And I was really sad for Axel Tuanzebe and Martial because like I thought, what? Like this guy literally did something against PSG and you guys were hailing him and one match. And they forget. That's what I'm saying. They don't like us. They don't really care for us like that. It's like you're here to do your job. If you do it, yay. If you don't do it, they descend on you like nothing has happened. So, and he mentioned, do we have to do good to receive good? We don't need to score to make you like us. We are human beings. That's what we care about. It's not about because we are playing football. We're not pawns or puppets for you that when we perform, you like us regardless. You understand? So it's not going to change, but I mean, it's going to change. I feel like it will change, but at the end of the day, we have to also be aware of where we are at, the environment that we are in, the countries that we are in. Some of them will always be of the negative idea that no, they see us very inferior to them, and they will always think superior over us. So we need to also accept that mindset. Not all of them are going to change. Even those who claim that they change, they only do so because of their brand and how they think of their pockets and other stuff. So we have to, as a community, be able to also put in measures where we need to keep pushing and fighting for this. And Ian Wright posted a statement of I think the court rule of something that happened, and he really voiced out his opinion, and you can tell that it came from a place of fight, even though it happened a long time ago. But at the end of the day, that also showed me that regardless, man, until we as Black people, we start climbing up to the top, we cannot make changes. But then who are the gatekeepers for in that sort of organization? So that's another thing.
That brings me on to my next point. Why do you think we don't see many Black coaches, at the top level? And when they do get there, like they don't get the same not opportunity, but you don't get the same leeway, I guess.
So my experience and my belief around the aspect of Black coaches, I can't speak for every sport, but what I can say is in a large proportion of the popular sports, there are Black athletes at the top level that demonstrate that they can really, really compete, and they'll go down in a lasting legacy. And when I say that, I mean the top athletes in terms of legend status in a variety of sports. You look at football, boxing, and athletics, which I believe are three of the most popular sports. And then you look at other very popular sports like cricket and rugby. And you would say those are five are potentially the most popular sports across the world. And I'm not saying the most, I'm just saying five of the most popular sports. The names are endless in terms of Black participants in those sports. But when you were to talk about coaches, as you said, why are there not many? You would struggle to name as many coaches. The reason I think this is because we've just been discussing, no matter how much good an individual does, and when I say an individual, I mean one of our community, a Black individual, that'll be held and held in a high regard. But as soon as they fall lower on that, we then become a lower level, and scapegoat, victim, and we're shown the door pretty quickly. That being said, the realities are that we will challenge the powers that be and will bring attention to things that aren't just coaching related. And some organizations instill a institutional racist mentality within them, whether it's through malice or ignorance. And what I mean by that is malice is when they're intentionally doing it, and ignorance is when they're just blind to it and they think, oh, well, we've got 2 Black coaches, so we're not racist. When in reality, they might have 200 employees, but only 2 of them are Black. So there's deep-rooted reasons. Being a aspiring coach and someone that wants to work in the professional game, I hope I can contribute to that. But I know there'll be barriers that I face due to many things, and it's not just a race. It's a personality. It's what do I champion? What do I stand up for? What's my appearance and perception? The reality of when I eventually get to an interview, you know, there'll be basic things of how I like to be perceived. Am I willing to compromise a spelling of one of my middle names? Am I willing to compromise my hair? If I go in there with a buzz cut compared to dreadlocks, that will form an opinion of the interviewees and the interviewers. It's as simple as that. So there's many a thing, but we have to do our part. We have to continue to show generations younger than us that we are role models and that we are skilled in many various different fields. And the reality is, especially for those young people that we currently work with, where we're not necessarily professional or paid to the highest level in those fields, we have to still aspire them to reach those targets, like obviously people before have done. So it's a complex thing. It's much more than just not being skilled, which some ignorant, you know, individuals believe. Oh, it's just that they're not skilled in that department. You know, we as three individuals know that's not factually correct. But those are my brief opinions. Is the reality is that the power, as Dom has already highlighted, that the powers that be are currently not necessarily Black individuals. Before I go, one example is Les Ferdinand, a well thought of individual in the footballing game. Legend or not can be, you know, opinions can be had, but always remained at the top level. You know, played for England, well respected by the Black community. I think in general, well respected by the white community as well. Being qualified to be a manager for a long period of time, but never been considered for a top role. You look at some of the, albeit top names, that have been qualified for 2 minutes, and when I say 2 minutes, I mean less than 2 years. It's almost like they didn't need to turn up for the interview. And we're not talking about our Ashley Coles. We're not talking about our, you know, Raheem Sterling's, our Marcus Rashford. We're talking about, albeit legends, we're talking about white individuals or those from a different background. So the challenges we face are severe and deep rooted, but we have to keep striving and champion those and, you know, knocking those hurdles over. So that's my 2 pence.
Yeah, I'm aware we haven't got much time left, literally 6 minutes. But I want to ask a question. So when I look at footballers in particular, but not just footballers, basketball, boxing, whatever it is, right? One thing I noticed is that there's always a mental mindset that the top players have, right? And a lot of it comes with sacrifice. So a lot of times you think about a footballer, you think, well, let's say, for example, in the UK, we have Premier League on Boxing Day, right? So that means that the footballer possibly can't really enjoy Christmas dinner and have a drink up like the rest of the nation is. They're also playing on New Year's Day as well, so they can't really have that same mindset. That in itself is a sacrifice. Having to wake up early, prepare yourself, go to training, you know, every day, having that mindset to be able to continue to put in that physical work. When you speak to your young people, how many of them do you feel understand that early and have that mindset, and how many of them just see the sort of, you know, the Hollywood side of it, where it's like, I just want to play in the Prem and have a nice car and have this and that, but they don't realize the sacrifices that actually go into making it to the top level?
I just be very quick at this because I see the time running down. So with some of the young people, like I don't know if it's the same for Jacob, but more time I have seen that they are very motivated by what they see, that the outward rewards that they get, you know, that the lifestyle, the cars, the packaging, that's what they think it is. I think it's up to us when they're young, as coaches, as mentors, to be able to instill in them the attitude, the discipline that no, this is not what it is. It's a work, it's a career. You have to wake up and work. It's you. You are your own like machine. You're your own brand. It's not like you go to where they give you a truck to drive. You are you. So I always use Ronaldo as an example for them because he is constantly working. Even after training, he stays back and do an extra hour more. Takes time to work on his body, the things that he eats, the things that he puts into his body. He's very conscious of it, and he's very mindful of what he does. So it's us. Some of them don't see it, some do, and at the same time, it depends who they have around them, be it an uncle or I don't know, a role model. But when I see them like that, it's up to us to also sort of like teach them, because we're not just training or coaching them to be good technically or actually good at what they're doing, but teaching them the job that this is how it is. Forget the outward things that you're getting. You have to make sure that you understand what you're doing and understand that the discipline that it comes with, understand the hardships that it comes with. It takes a toll on your body, it takes a toll on your mindset. Are you able to leave your parents, or even one day to a point that you have kids, not spend Christmas with them? So I think not everybody knows it. Those who are ready to learn to, you can see it from them. And I think those who do listen, you see it. That's why in an academy, you can see 20 players and boom, you get to the top and there's only 2 or 3 that make it. So what is it that the 3 had that the rest of the 17 didn't have? So I think that's how I'll leave it, because the time is running down. So Jacob, if you have to add anything, I'd like to hear.
I think Dom really hit the nail on the head, and just touching on that academy experience. You know, they're in an elite environment, so say for their age, for a period of time, and then, as you said, only a few go on to actually make it, get their scholarships, or even make it pro. And it usually comes down to the mental mindset. One of the most talented players I've coached, and I still hope that he you know, he's on Match of the Day one day. But my doubt when he did get picked up he initially went on trial at Southampton, and then he was unsuccessful, and then he went on trial with Bristol City. Like I said, one of the most talented players I coached, but my concern was never with his physical or his technical and tactical side of things. It was always his psychological and his social side. And when I say social side, he had no problem in the changing room. He had no problem turning up on time, doing extra training, all those things. He was a coach's dream. What I mean is the expectation that he carried on his own shoulders, let alone from me as his coach when he entered the field. Don't get me wrong, again, he performed. He showed exceptional levels on the pitch, far and above, like I said, the best player on the pitch most weeks. But I identified as a coach that he was not capable to burden that. So I think we have to instill the perception of it's not given to you for free, and you have to instill that as an individual, but we have to set them up accordingly. But yeah, it's a real challenge, but we are mentors, going back to your first question.
Thank you. So guys, that's bringing us to the end of Melanin Mindset, the first episode of the new revamp of the Wellbeing Show. I just want to say thank you, Jacob, thank you, Dominic, for being guests on the show.
Pleasure, man, pleasure.
You know,
always, man.
Dropping some insight into, you know, the mental world of, you know, physics and sport and sports science. So wishing you all the best for the future. And
thank you.
The Melanin Mindset. So for all that's watching, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Peace.
Peace, man.
Peace, man.